The Dr. Oba Tashaka Show. Free your mind, and the rest will follow. A show for all who are on the journey to discover the truths about their identity, history, culture, politics, spirituality, and family relationships. This is a show for the Black Freedom Movement and the Black Power generation and the hip-hop generation, including Black Lives Matter and associate activists, all of whom are seeking change. Dr. Oba Tashaka and his guests are dropping knowledge and insight from his successful organizing, research, writings, and innovative thoughts, the best of which have piped into God's mind to lift you up higher and higher. To the bosses, OGs, rappers, influencers, and those looking to evolve from the constraints of misinformation and miseducation to build a foundation for personal growth, love, and mental freedom. Check out the wisdom of the OR. Yeah, that's the original revolutionary, Oba T, who inspired 1 million black men with his rousing speech at the Million Man March, and who continues to fight, write, and speak the truth. Dr. Oba Tashaka is one of the deepest deep thinkers in the world today. A quote by Dr. Asa Hilliard. Dr. Oba Tashaka, then Bill Bradley, was the best leader organizer in the Congress of Racial Equality, CORE. An endorsement from Dr. George Wiley, Associate Director of National CORE and the best organizer blacks produced in the 1970s as the organizer of the National Welfare Rights Organization. The Dr. Oba Tashaka Show. Free your mind, and the rest will follow.
Greetings to the viewers of the Dr. Oba Tashaka Show. To Brother Ugawa. Brother Ugawa is handling the slides today, so you won't see him on the show, but he's in the background. Brother Wolfman Lou. Let's see who else we have here, and others, because I see more listed on the thing here. Greetings. This is going to be a great show today because we have two honored, outstanding Africans who are going to be on this show right now. Brother Mukasa Dada Ricks, formerly known as Willie Ricks, the author of the Black Power slogan, who Stokely Carmichael, later Kwame Ture, called into the national office and said, "Send me Willie Ricks." And I think he knew that he had more than hot sauce in his container there. He was going to heat things up. Little did he know that he had planned something. And I cleared this with him to make sure this version was correct. His executive director, James Foreman, as a good soldier, he went into his office. Foreman had just resigned as national director, but he was still coordinating SNCC. And as a good soldier would do, he cleared this. He said, "What do you think if I put out a Black Power slogan out here?" And because his executive director was somebody that supported the troops, and he was also a revolutionary, he said, "Yeah, I think that's a good idea." And then I'm going to tell you something that Kwame Ture, then Stokely Carmichael, told me. He said, I was on the SMART, and he said, "Willie," because I know it may have gone more than this, but this is what his version was. He said, "He whispered in my ear to say Black Power." And, he said, then I'm quoting him because I can tell you what somebody said 30 years ago, exactly what he said. No, Willie's kind of crazy, but I went ahead and did it. And then they blew the place up. This is some history, ain't in no history books, people. But you see, Mr. Mikasa Dada likes to underestimate himself, say, well, he carries the briefcase of the greats and all this. See, the people that woke me up, I was like Willie Mikasa Dada. The people said, I ain't got no education. And then they proceed to educate you. You understand? And so that's him. And then he's got his beautiful wife, Mrs. Ricks, Mamumia,
Maimuna.
Maimuna. Yeah, I'm glad that you're on. You're one beautiful sister, and I see you out there. Wherever he is, you're in Africa. You're right there, and I guess that you took a lot of those pictures. Am I
yes,
right?
I did. I took some of them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you're right along there. I mean, if you hang in with Mikasa Dada Ricks, and then you put together a son in Cuba. Right now, I understand he's in Africa, leading a team of doctors trained in Cuba. What's the name of your son?
Abeku.
Dr. Abeku.
Dr. Abeku Ricks.
I mean, you got to have a revolutionary family. To the son want to go to Cuba and get him a revolutionary education, including in medicine, and then stay there. And right now he's in Guinea-Bissau, Cape Verde. And that's where the greatest leader of the 20th century lived, Amilcar Cabral. He's in the background on this show here. So this is a revolutionary family right here. So it's an honor to have both of you on. Welcome.
Thank you.
I wanted to start this off just briefly with a little discussion of Pan-Africanism, because the purpose of this show today is for both of you to talk about your recent trip to Burkina Faso, which is the great light for Africa at this time, a revolutionary country that's doing great things for African people on the African continent and around the world, led by Captain and head of the country, Ibrahim Traoré, who's
Traoré.
Say that again?
Traoré.
Traoré. Yeah. Traoré. Let me get that straight. You got it. Who's doing great things and who has a revolutionary mind as well as a revolutionary program. So I thought it would be fitting that if we started off this discussion with a little discussion on Pan-Africanism and its meaning, because the country of Burkina Faso is on the cutting edge of Pan-Africanism. Would you all like to start with a little discussion of the meaning of Pan-Africanism and what it means for African people?
No problem. The total liberation and unification of Africa under an all-African scientific socialist government. Kwame Nkrumah said at independence, the independence of Ghana is meaningless unless it's linked up to the independence of all of Africa and all African people worldwide. Now, early on in my lifetime, we had civil rights movements all over this country, and we fought for our freedom and dignity. At the same time, well, early on, Rosa Parks sit down on a bus and spreaded a movement. And then later in that year, a couple of years later, Kwame Nkrumah gained independence in Ghana. And when Kwame Nkrumah gained independence in Ghana, he called a worldwide meeting of African people. And when he called a worldwide meeting of African people, Martin Luther King was in that group. And freedom fighters from all over Africa and the world came there. And when Dr. King came back, he said, if
Ghana can do it and gain independence, get rid of the British and what have you, we can do it here in Montgomery. And he talked about that. And then later in the time, we started the Black Panther Party in Alabama. We had to pick up guns because they were killing people that tried to get freedom or independence or liberation in any form, inner segregation or register to vote, and just demand better conditions. They were killing them. And I could name a few kid deaths, but I won't. And then by 1966, we started the Panther Party in 65 and 66. We called for Black Power. And we called for Black Power. We had come out of Mississippi where people had been lynched and killed. And we had put together a state party, the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, and brought in the peasants like Fannie Lou Hamer to be spokesman for it. And then go back to 1965, in the middle of our civil rights movement and fighting, we went to the United Nations and demanded independence and freedom for the people in South Africa. At that time, we knew Nelson Mandela and Robert Sobukwe and the other movements in South Africa in that condition. And then after that, we called for Black Power. When we called for Black Power spread it from Mississippi into the cities, and people began to take it on their own. And before you know it, the cities were burning down. There were wars in the streets. They brought the army and National Guards throughout the United States and put in the community, shot down a lot of people. And at that time, Africa was fighting for its independence. In 1960, 18 countries in Africa got their independence. In 1961, you had revolution in Cuba. You had revolution in the Congo, where Patrice Lumumba was, and I myself was in Tennessee, but Nkrumah and Fidel Castro and myself was all on the battlefield in different parts of the world. And at that time, we called for Black Power went to Africa, and they had their liberation movements throughout Africa. And they all joined in with Black Power, and each one of them had their slogan, Uhuru, Pamberi na Shimaringa, and different slogans. And that, but we had the Black Power slogan, and those slogans came together, and we found ourselves now joining in with the liberation movements in Africa, and we helped fight for the independence of South Africa, Angola, Mozambique, Guinea-Bissau, and many other countries in that part of the world. At the same time, our movement went with Castro, became a guide to the revolution and an example. And then independent nations in the Caribbean began to gain their independence, and all our movements began to come together. So when we started fighting in Angola, Mozambique, we now come in contact with Sekou Touré, who was a great Pan-Africanist. We come in contact with Kwame Nkrumah, who was a great Pan-African. We come in contact with the Mau Mau movement and other movements in Africa. And now these movements began to come together. So by us fighting for Africa and fighting for different parts of Africa, Kwame Nkrumah made it clear that we would never be free until we have our own land, Africa. And our fight now began, we fighting for Africa. And even though we fought for different countries in Africa, and but our major fight in Pan-Africanism is for the total liberation of Africa and the unity of Africa. And we come to talk to people about the history of Africa and the great kingdoms and empires that Africa had and the great civilizations and all those kinds of things. And we come to talk about the natural resources of Africa, and we learn about imperialism, colonialism, neo-colonialism, and those kinds of systems. And today we're facing the same thing and the same struggle, but we see that in order for us to be strong, we got to come together, not just the people inside the United States, in the Caribbean, in Africa, and in the South Pacific or Europe, wherever we find ourselves, we have to come together for the liberation of Africa. And so today, Pan-Africanism means that all of us fight together as one for United States of Africa.
And I just like to add that the beauty of Pan-Africanism today is that the youth have grabbed hold to it. And I just want to know, just to say that one of our ancestors says we have unity of action. We can unite around a particular event or action, but what we lack is unity of purpose and mind. So Pan-Africanism is giving us that unity of purpose and mind.
Yeah, and I think it's very important that the youth have embraced it. And I think in Black Lives Matter, you had key leaders in Black Lives Matter had been nurtured by the Black freedom, Black power, Pan-Africanist movements. Melina Abdullah is one of them, and by many others, the Black Panthers. And so that was a part of what was underlying them. And in fact, they were pulling from Ella Baker's playbook, group-centered leadership, not centering leadership on one person. Just a few other things on Pan-Africanism that we should be proud of. The very notion of Pan-Africanism is a gift from the African in the United States and the Caribbean. And that comes out of the experience of Africans in the United States during enslavement. We came in, we didn't call ourselves Africans. We called ourselves Yoruba, Asante, Igbo, whatever it was. But over time, we saw in the United States that what tied us together was color, Blackness. But then out of that also, we saw what tied us together was Africa. So what you saw is the first institutions we started building, the Free African Society, the secret societies, that the African Lodge, which was the first secret society organized in this country by Prince Hall. And then the Black church, but the early Black churches were African Methodists in this. The majority of enslaved Blacks did not embrace Christianity, contrary to popular opinion. They were too smart to. And when they formed the Black church at the end of slavery, what they did is they threw voodoo in it. Mm-hmm. And the first preachers were in fact diviners. They were African priests that you went to and consulted and stuff. So then the birth of Pan-Africanism is the first Pan-African Congress held by Sylvester Williams in London in 1900. And that's when what was Ethiopianism, because Garvey was an Ethiopianist. He never used the word Pan-African, in part because Du Bois did. He was in a dispute with Du Bois, but also because he was an Ethiopianist. There's a passage in the Bible, and most Blacks didn't care about the Bible at this point during enslavement, but a passage that says, "Princes shall come out of Egypt, Ethiopia shall stretch forth its hand unto God." And then our scholars said, soon. So when that first Pan-African Congress was held in London in 1900 by Sylvester Williams, W.B. Du Bois attended it, and he said, the problem of the 20th century is the problem of the color line. That's when Ethiopianism becomes Pan-Africanism, one Africa. And for the African in America, and the two authors of Pan-Africanism, Africans in the United States, Africa in the Caribbean, particularly Trinidad. Trinidad has produced in the Caribbean the strongest Pan-Africanist thinkers and leaders, C.L.R. James being one of them, and many others. And so then it is turned from a religious political thing into a political thing. And the idea of Pan-Africanism was the unification of Africa, but also the unification of Africans around the world. Mm-hmm. Because all Africans are not going to come back to Africa. But as Malcolm said, if you don't come back physically, you can come back spiritually, philosophically, politically, actively, and support Africa and support the freedom of Africans anywhere in the world. So then between the first Pan-African Congress in London until the fifth, which was really the sixth, because historians don't cover the first, and they should. A fifth Pan-African Congress is called. Now, this is a little story I got from John Henry Clark. When Nkrumah was in the United States, and he was going to Lincoln University. He was a very poor person. And in many ways, that was a good thing because kept him in the Black community. He may have stayed anyway. He had Black girlfriends. He was so poor that he could barely take a sister in Harlem to get an ice cream cone. And according to John Henry Clark, his teeth were so white, they looked like they were fake. And they had a debate. Nkrumah would never enter a debate until he could win. And then when he would win, he would tap you on the shoulder and say, "I got you, ha ha." And so after 10 years of being educated in the United States, where he got a degree in economics and a degree in religion. Now, John Henry Clark used to, and all of them, because he was in a study group led by a man named Walter Huggins, they would say, "We don't need no Africans trained in religion. That's a waste of time." You know what I mean? But he was trained in economics as well. And so there's a time where he decides to go to London to work with George Padmore. And he gets a letter. This ain't in no history book. He gets a letter from C.L.R. James. It's sealed. And it's given to him to give to George Padmore, whose real name was Malcolm Nurse. George Padmore had been a colonel in the Russian system, but broke with the Russians when the Russians were engaged in a fight with the Germans in World War II and wanted Africans to postpone their independence until they defeated the Germans. And at that point, Padmore said, hell no, because African nationalism just as important as yours. Why should we wait for our freedom while you're fighting for yours to save you? So Nkrumah goes to meet with Padmore. And do you think that he opened that letter? I'll tell you in a minute. So what happens is Nkrumah apprentices under Padmore and learns some real organizing, and they organize the 5th Pan-African Congress. And that Congress is the Congress that charted the course for African independence. It's the most important meeting held by Africans in the 20th century, and probably by any people in the 20th century, because I don't know of any conference that produced a thrust. It probably would have happened without it, but Nkrumah goes back and leads the independence of Ghana. Azikiwe ends up, who was at the same 5th Pan-African Congress, being the first president of Nigeria. Jomo Kenyatta was at the Congress and ends up being president of Kenya. So this is part of the thrust of Pan-Africanism. In my background and coming out of CORE, we were radicalized through the movement. Mine was through an economic movement fighting for jobs for Blacks. We had the only successful Northern Black freedom, Black power movement. We defeated an entire economic power structure, but we underwent an awakening. And that awakening was around Africa. Mine was a radicalization where we produced thousands of jobs for Blacks. We built housing. We organized 45,000 Black people block by block. That movement gave birth to the Experimental College, which was a forerunner for the first Black Studies department in the United States that I chaired for 12 years. Students made the strike. They went out and fought. But so the point is that Africa became foremost in our mind. But for me, King became a revolutionary in the movement. Malcolm was the foremost revolutionary and Pan-Africanist in the movement. Mine came from realizing that while we were successful in getting jobs for Blacks, capitalism is so structured that it's going to make the rich rich and the poor poor. And the majority of our people and the majority of the poor are always going to remain poor. That radicalized me. Now, this is the final thing, and this is something that I forgot to ever tell Kwame Ture, because he would stay with me, my organization, after the San Francisco Freedom Movement's Pan-African People's Organization. It's been in operation since 1966. We ran African Liberation Day from 1973 to 79, averaging 25 to 30,000 people. C.L.R. James addressed it in 1977, stayed in my house for a week. And we delivered to Julius Nyerere a film of that ALD in 1977. And by the way, it's Nkrumah and Nyerere who on the ground were the two best leaders in Africa on the ground in the 20th century. And Nkrumah, a visionary for Africa, built Ghana, modern day Ghana. Nkrumah built it. Mm-hmm. And in the case of Julius Nyerere, Tanzania, he put forward the best operational plan for African independence on the ground, and he was a pan-Africanist, through agricultural development. He was sabotaged by his elite. And this is a problem that Africa faces today. Backward leadership that have got their hands on all the money. And so Africa goes nowhere. Of course, Europe's got most of it. They get the crumbs. So this is the final story I had told Brother Mikasa Dada Ricks. This in 1964, Malcolm X was in Africa. He had been forced out of the Nation of Islam, and they were trying to kill him. And he ran into a friend of mine named Paulu. And Paulu was the major organizer of the Sixth Pan-African Congress. I was chair of the political committee of the Sixth Pan-African Congress. This was before then. And so he knew Malcolm because he had been in a PhD program for engineers, special kind that build up rural villages. And so this is what Malcolm said to him. This is not, again, in any history book. He said, me and Adam Clayton Powell are getting ready to call a Black Power conference. You want to come? And he said, I can't go because he had something else to do. So when you, Mikasa Dada Ricks, through your own awakening and everything else, decided to throw forward Black Power, and Black Power has been out there as an idea for a long time, but you innovated with the slogan and got it into the movement and helped, because the consciousness was already raising in the movement. That took it to another level. Mm-hmm. That behind that, there was also the spirit of El Hajj Malik El Shabazz, better known as Brother Malcolm
Wally.
Yeah, Omar Wally, son who returned home. One of the baddest Black men we produced, period. Who, because the greatest gain many of us think of the 60s was the freedom of the minds of at least some of our people, a fair, great number of our people. And Malcolm played a big part in that. Big Red, you know what I mean? Anything else y'all want to add to this before we get into the...
I think we covered that area.
Okay. Because there are a few people out there who are brainwashed that want to put down Pan-Africanism. I mean, that's like putting down your mama. Tell me, since when are Europeans putting down the unification of Europe? And guess what? Europeans hate Europeans. I don't know if you know that, but they had 2 world wars where they nearly genetically annihilated each other. Huh? They only came together to prevent the escalation of the Germans going up against them. Our Pan-Africanism is based on love. We love African people. And what we love most is the African woman, because she's got more sense than either of the 2 of us.
Don't let my wife hear you say that.
Huh?
You're right.
My wife hear you say that. Huh? Don't let my wife hear you say it too much.
She already heard it. And
she already knows it.
It's the truth. And why is that? She carries the culture.
Of course.
Yeah.
We have people that's confused, and the agents of imperialism, the FBI, the Zionists, they will bring forward people to claim Black power and who are reactionary, to claim Pan-Africanism, to redefine it, and to bring a split among us and whatever. But the fight against our struggles and our ideals would not just come from white people. A lot of times they can't just come up front and do it. So they have to get us to do it, Black people, and dress them like us and whatever, and put them in good positions. But they come out and fight and many of them fighting against the United States of Africa. Many of them are fighting against Africa being our land, our home, and whatever. And they're fighting against it, and that we have to be prepared for it. This fight won't just come from the white man. Even a lot of the soldiers that fight us, they would look like us, but they would be fighting for imperialism. And even in Africa today, a lot of the government officials, they look like us, and the politicians here look like us, but everything they do is in the hands of the white power structure and in the hands of imperialism. And they're fighting against us. And that many of time, the enemy can't get close to us, but those that look like us will be the ones that assassinated, like they did Malcolm X, or like they did Thomas Sankara, or like they did Lumumba in the Congo. So this neo-colonialism and this new force that these imperialists have set up, they look like us, but they think like the enemy and work for the enemy.
I've had 3 assassination attempts run on me. 18 guys tried to kill me. 1 came to shoot me, and then they sent their best, the CIA and FBI together sent their best agent to kill my whole organization. They were all black. But I knew that wasn't black people. These were agents of the enemy. You know what I mean? Right. Yes, you're absolutely right. And the greatest enemy of us is when their ideas are in our minds and we start acting on remote control. I call them remote control, automatic pilot, 00 soul Negroes. But those who are in power to do the bidding of the enemy, those are the worst ones.
And so that's why we talk about ideological unity and education in the head before the gun in the hand, is that our people have to be ideologically trained, historically trained, and we have to make soldiers out of them and fight, and who fight for us, and that we will be able to judge who our people are by the minds and the thoughts and the ideals that they represent, not just by the color that they are. So our fight is for Pan-Africanism, and we must define that as Kwame Nkrumah and the rest of those have tried to define it. And those people out here that are struggling, not those intellectuals just sitting back talking.
Right, exactly. And there's a process for the freedom of the mind. And that process of Malcolm X went through and Amilcar Cabral went through, I call it the 6-fold stages of mental freedom. And one of the weaknesses of some of our movements in the 60s, both in Africa and here and in other parts of the world, is that the leaders had not undergone serious transformation, then those movements are going to be led in the wrong direction. And so, yeah,
we need ideology to guide and direct the revolution. And that's why all of us need to build a big major party. And all of us must be in a party and get it away from the individuals. And then we can come together as a party, like the Chinese Communist Party, the Cuban Communist Party, or the AAP, have an ideological educational project that continuously educate our people, and it have to be tied into the people that's on the front line struggling and fighting and doing and shooting back and doing whatever.
Right. Yeah, very important. You know, I see a few people here. Mr. Spirituality, haven't seen you before. Glad to have you. Says Shezmu Pata Amun, greetings to you. Wolf Manlu, and others. Peggy Parks Miller, who's on regularly. Good to see you, and others. Okay, let's get into the purpose of this show. We put out a promotional flyer here. And the title of the flyer.
You couldn't see it.
Huh?
You couldn't see it.
Couldn't see it. They should have sent you one.
Put it up higher. Yeah.
Kiss. Can you see it now?
Yeah. We see it now, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
It says, Brother Willie Ricks reports on his recent trip to Burkina Faso. And then it's got a thing here, and it's got a picture.
I see it.
Willie Mikasa Dada Ricks, and then a picture on the side of the president of Burkina Faso. And the one of me, that's chairing a plenary in Senegal on Pan-Africanism in the 21st century in 2004. I'm the only African outside of Africa to chair that because they knew my work in African liberation. And some stuff came out of that conference, by the way, recommending dual citizenship for Africans in the United States and on the continent, and some other things. So let's get into your trip. When did you go? Why were you there? What did you do? And in the course of this, I'll be asking at certain points for Brother Ogawa to put up slides on this trip. So go ahead. Why'd y'all go? And what did y'all do? What did you see?
So we went with part of a delegation of Pan-Africanists, ministers. Who else was there? What they call that new group?
Thomas Sankara Friendship Committee.
Yes. So we called ourselves Friends of Ibrahim Traore, and we went for various reasons, different folks, but we were there mainly to see what was going on, to see, and also to show support, to let the people in Burkina Faso know that we are the same people and their fight is our fight. And they immediately loved that. They even said that it's because of the support of Africans in the diaspora that they have been able to survive as long as they have. And they had no idea of the support that they were getting, you know. And when there were threats on the president's life and people were threatening him, and the kind of force that came from Africans, particularly in the US, was, you know, they just took it to heart. They say we were their shield, you know, that we were the shield, and they were happy. We just hammered, we are African people, we are the same people, your fight is our fight. They said because of the support that we had here, that the U.S. had to back off on Langley. The general had to, you know, back him off. Not that they're not coming, but they have to change their strategy. And what impressed me was the women were beautiful and natural. You know, I didn't see all this fake nothing. They were very, and the young people, the country is very young. You know, I'm looking around and, you know, all I see is young people. Very young, and that was impressive. And also, there's development everywhere. Everywhere you hear and see development. You know, you see the works being done. The people love the president, all the way from the kids up. You know, he has this philosophy that it takes all of us, and it's going to take all of us to build our country. And also, the other thing is they realized, and all the ministers that we met with, the theme was, yes, we are a liberated zone here, but our struggle is connected to all of Africa. And we can't survive if all of Africa is not united and come on board.
And that's what we made clear. And we have traveled to many liberated zones from South Africa to Guinea-Bissau and other areas of Africa, from Guinea to Ghana, and in support and to join our movements and struggles with those movements. And every time that we made a talk, we made it clear that the liberation of Guinea-Bissau, Mali, and Niger is meaningless.
Burkina Faso.
Burkina Faso is meaningless unless it's linked to the independence of all of Africa. Because as we talk now, the Imperial Bush, Trump and those has made progress in side of the Congo, taking control of all the minerals in the Congo. They got diasporas throughout the Congo and got them throughout Africa. They got mining companies all over Africa, 60,000 in South Africa alone, and mining companies throughout Africa raping the resources. And you have political freedom where you got government forces like politicians here, or preachers or whatever, but they have absolutely no economic power. They don't control the land, don't control the resources, and therefore they got to depend on the outside world, the Europeans and the big companies to feed the people, or they make sure you can't feed yourself. You're totally dependent on them. And that so when we was in Burkina Faso, we saw a government that was trying to take control of the food, feeding their people, trying to take control of the language where they not talk French, but start talking like that they're supposed to talk and what have you. So
we met with several ministers while we were there.
Yeah.
Hold on a minute. Put up, Brother Ogawa, start putting up some pictures while they're talking.
One of the ministers that we met with was the Minister of Education. And what he said was that the past administration, I had no idea that the literacy rate, that over half of the country was illiterate, that can't read and write. And the administration before were closing schools. They closed like 5,000 schools. And so one of the things that they had to do when he came to power is to make education, focus on education again and make that a priority. And so he's reopening all these schools. And a good thing they said was when the U.S. aid, that's what was feeding the school children. So when they say the best thing that happened to them was when that aid stopped, because it forced them to now figure out how they're going to feed their own children at school. So they have instituted this, every school has to have a garden. And every school has to have a well to be able to feed the children. The children will work the farms and they'll be able to feed themselves and not depend on somebody else to feed the children.
There's nothing showing. Go ahead, keep talking.
And but that really shocked me that the education level was at that level in Burkina Faso. Another minister we met with, and then also in terms of education too, they said we don't need a bunch of teachers flooding into Burkina Faso. What we need skills. We need people who can come in and revamp systems, who can implement systems and bring those skills, who can upgrade our libraries. Because for example, he said in education, they were teaching Columbus discovered America. They weren't teaching. They just recently started teaching history. That's us. That's one of the president's bodyguards.
Personal bodyguards.
Aristide, I think his name. We were at one of the ministers' office meeting with one of the ministers.
And the fact of the matter is, everybody in Burkina Faso is riding a motorbike. They got 100 times more motorbikes than they do cars, and there are many motorbikes and a lot of bicycles. And this is the transportation system that they have in Burkina Faso. Everywhere you go, you're gonna see thousands of people on motorbikes, women dressed up in high heels, and babies on women's back, and they all riding to work and going wherever they're going. And you might pull up to the red light, and 1,000 motorbikes be right there beside you. And it's very beautiful seeing them.
This is the sister who was part of the delegation. This is Silas Muhammad's wife. She is the daughter-in-law of Elijah Muhammad.
At one time.
Her first husband. And she was a beautiful sister, Queen Harriet.
And we're coming from, and this is coming from one of the ministers' office here.
This is where we met with the president of the Sahel region, Bosley. He was a friendly guy, friendly African, and he gave Mukasa an award, gave him a pen.
Patrice Lumumba Award, and gave my wife the Malcolm X Award.
Wow.
And they were very wonderful to us. And They show great appreciation for the work that we are doing and what have you.
Put the next one up.
This is we riding down the street. The people are very, very security minded, so they didn't like cameras. So we didn't take as many pictures as we could have taken because, you know, we kind of had to hide cameras. Everywhere we went, every building we went, they took your purse and they took your camera, you know, your phone. So we didn't have a lot, but this is one I managed to get from the car. That's why it's not very clear. But they were having some kind of rally.
These are the motorbikes that I just talked about. Many, many people riding motorbikes.
Put the next one up. Oh, yeah, this is a good one.
Yeah, this is one of the restaurants where we ate. This was a nice restaurant. This is another sister, Oli Mata Katal. She was a part of the delegation.
And she's a very talented young lady, and she was very able to interpret African language and the French language. And she was also made an ambassador. 3 of us was made ambassadors for Guinea-Bissau, Burkina Faso, Maimuna, Ole, and myself.
These are more pictures of the people
on motorbikes.
And what's different in this country too is you see women. You know, in some of the other African countries, you don't see women driving a lot, but here on the motorcycles, you see just as many women driving as you see men driving in Burkina Faso. They say that Thomas Sankara started that to elevate women, you know, and to make sure that women played their part and had their role and had credit for the things that they did. And this president is carrying on that
women tradition. Are soldiers in the army, and they're strong. And this right here stopped at this little market here. They got many, many markets on the streets. Like they don't have Walmart and all that. They just got 1 million people out there selling different things. And we bought bags of these peanuts. And man, these peanuts were so good. Oh, they were so good. I ate them and looked for some more.
This is us at the one of the ministers. I can't remember which one. And this, once again, that's Queen Harriet, and that's her her guard. It's part of the nation sent with her. This was a beautiful shot. We're at this school. You'll see some more pictures of this school, but this was like a fabulous neighborhood, a new upcoming neighborhood. I mean, it was like, houses you can't even imagine. And the beautiful way that they build houses in Africa is that when you finish with a house, you owe nothing. You start out by buying your land, and then when you get a little bit more money, you put the foundation, and when you get a little bit more, and you keep on until you finish that house. They are huge. Everybody builds a huge house. And that's what this is. This is a neighborhood of huge house, a beautiful neighborhood. They're still building in that neighborhood.
As a matter of fact, they're building houses for everybody. And like when we was in Venezuela, China sent built I think 10,000 apartment buildings for Venezuela, and just bring the people in and give them the houses. So these are your houses for your life, and you owe nothing. Now this meeting.
Yeah, this was a meeting of grassroots organization. This represented 104 organizations in the whole Sahara region. Beautiful. This was like a lot of women in leadership in this I can't remember the name of the organization.
Women head all the organizations.
Right.
And that they all are support forces for the government. And that I was standing there speaking to them. And that it just showed the strength of the women.
Next.
This is once again Silas Muhammad's wife, Queen Harriet. This is the Minister of Education. He gave us all these gifts. The other thing, one of the philosophies in there is that you produce what you use. If you use it, you need to produce it. And so they produce this cloth. This is a special cloth. They have 2 of them. This is called the Coco Dana. It's a special tie-dye they have. The other one is called Faso da Fica, something. But it's beautiful cloth, and that's what you see the people. They produce it, and they wear it. You know, they make their cloth out of it. That's the other one. that they make. This is one of the ministers also. I think this is the Minister of Justice. With the ministers, all the overarching theme was we need skills to upgrade our systems. We need computer. We need that technology. We would like to be able to connect with our brothers in other parts of the world. We would be able to take classes here and you take classes there, and we can do that via computer and technology. So they welcome technology, welcome digitizing their library, digitizing their whole education system. And that's what they asked for. They gave us these beautiful gifts and gave us cloth. This brother here in the middle in the white, that's the President Bosny of the Sahel Alliance. He gave the three of us in the front pen, each of us, if you could see the pen. He penned Mukasa for Patrice Lumumba, penned me for Malcolm X, and penned Queen Harriet for Dr. King. And he was like, they're bringing history of the diaspora into their schools because they didn't know about the different African leaders here, like Malcolm. They wasn't getting that history. So now they've brought that into their schools. They even have changed their books to have pictures of African kids. You know, you see the picture. They had French books, but now they've changed their books to put their own pictures on it.
And also they're changing the language in the schools also.
Oh, this was awesome. This was at a television station where Mukasa did a program, and there were young folks sitting in the audience. So Mukasa went out into the audience and raised his fist. And next thing you know, the whole studio was chanting, Africa must be free. And all the kids from all around in the studio came and joined in.
Oh, they had a big kid there.
Yeah.
Go on to the next one. That's bad.
This is that organization we told you of, the 100 and something of the Sahel region. The women.
And this is the Minister of Unity for the bringing all the organizations in the country together. And this is the minister, and we took pictures with him.
And that's, once again, he's wearing their cloth.
And that's the picture again.
Want to go back to the previous one with all those women.
Yes.
And
no,
that's us eating fine food.
No, go ahead. Just keep going. Yeah, you know, your comment about African women is very important. I know you read my book, Return to the African Mother Principle of Male and Female Equality. Mm-hmm. And what I was showing there is the heart of African culture is the union of African men and African women, and African women play a central part in that. And if you're going to have any kind of movement for liberation, if African women are not central to it, it's a bogus movement.
Yes.
And so that central thing is very, very important. They run the economy of Africa. They feed Africa. Yeah. Without African women, Africa would starve.
Exactly.
But now we got to put weapons and leadership in the woman's hand. Well, because they over 50% of our fighting force, and therefore we have to make sure that they play an equal role and not just be secretaries and dishwashers, baby keepers.
Now, on this picture, the one before, that was another radio program a television program that he did, and you can't see around the table, but those are women leaders who were part of that television program. This is we did a press conference.
That's President of the Alliance right there. No.
This is no, that's not the Sahara. That's one of the other ministers. I'm not sure if that's the other. We did two ministers of education, but he was also a very nice African, and he was
that
just
the foreign minister.
No, that's not the. No, that's not the prime minister.
Anyway, we met with so many ministers and so many government officials.
Now that sister in the back, in the blue, That's a sister from Texas.
She's the
We
one
didn't know.
set up the school. She's the one
Huh?
set up the school, isn't she?
Yes, she came to Burkina Faso some years ago and built this fabulous school from ground up. It's got 4 stories.
And she used to be a member of the All African People's Revolutionary Party.
Right.
And she was in Texas.
Yeah.
And did a little work with us in Mississippi in the 80s or 90s or whatever. And that and she went there and put together a school and bring children from different parts of the world to the school. She's trying to build a dormitory onto the school, and she got the building. She just got to make the space, but she have a school.
Her 4th floor is going to be a boarding school where Africans from the diaspora can send their children to live there and go to school.
You know, there's
to that nice restaurant. These are Burkina Faso is very well built. I mean, it's a very modern.
There's so
city.
many buildings. But the one time they were all for the French and the foreigners, but since they ran them out, Africans, they got these buildings, and everywhere you go, you see buildings going up and what have you. But it's really beautiful and large.
It's a big city.
How you say the city name of the city?
Ouagadougou.
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 Ouagadougou is a big, large city. Everywhere you go, you drive and see all these buildings, think you're downtown, and drive around, and then you drive about 10 more miles. There you go, another big area look like it's downtown, then you drive another area and just find buildings everywhere, and they're in the hands of African people.
And another amazing thing was I'd been there, we had been there about 14 days, and I said, we haven't seen a single white person.
Isn't that nice?
Yes, it is.
Is this a bank right here?
That's a bank, yes. That's a bank. One of the things that the president of the Sahara Alliance said that one of their objectives was to have a bank for the entire region, for the 3 countries, to have no passports to travel within those countries, and security. Military to protect those to combine their military.
And they're trying very hard to get Senegal and Benin and what's that, Sierra Leone? I think it's Sierra Leone, French colony, to come with them and join in and run the French off the territory, make the French military leave, and force. And we are trying to get AFRICOM out, the army and the military that Obama and the United States set up inside of Africa, 40 different army bases, and that one of their generals was sent there, and his job was to go there and assassinate President Touré, and to assassinate him. And he made it public that that's what he was going to do, and all the Africans and got together and ran him out. But there are many governments that exist around them still under the hands of the imperialists, and that so the government continue to strive, but they got so many obstacles where the U.S. and the imperialists is organizing against them. So they're not free. That's why they need us politically, every organization, to speak up and stand up for Burkina Faso.
Yes, when we asked, so what are some of the things that we could do on this end? And the main thing was educate the people, put the propaganda out. You have a fabulous media system, communication system. Use that system to help us.
Right on. That's our job. And hands
the political part is more important than any part, because we got to protect the liberated zones that we have. We can't allow them to fall back in the hands of the imperialists. So they want all of us to support it, and all of us need to put our organizations in it. We need to put our churches in it, and all the institutions that we're associated with must speak up for Burkina Faso and speak out against imperialism, because imperialism is Satan.
He
It's
said,
the devil.
They said, we don't need your money. We need your skills.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we don't need you to just go around raising money. We need you to send some skills here, not just a bunch of people who's coming and oohing and ahhing and trying to figure out how they can make $1, but we need you to bring skills here that can develop the country.
and they got gold.
Yeah.
And I feel that the gold and the other natural resources that they have, diamonds and other resources they have, is much more important than reparations. Reparations ain't nothing but money, and money ain't nothing but shit paid with the white man's picture on it. But we take over our diamonds and gold and oil and silver and whatever, we'll be in a better position than them giving us some money. Matter of fact, they trying to make a rule and a law to get rid of European money on the continent of Africa.
Now, it was unlike Burkina Faso was a kind of costly country. You know, it was the dollar wasn't worth anything, and you couldn't, you know, which was a good thing. But they are working on not letting people just come in and just take that dollar and run out with their resources.
You know, one of the most important things that happened at the Sixth Pan-African Congress, I chaired the political committee for North America. That was considered for the Congress as a whole, because we had people from the South Pacific, we had people from the Caribbean, we had people from all over Africa, we had people from Europe, and the largest delegation was from the United States. And one of your former SNCC members was executive director doing the logistics. And it was CLR James that actually called for this Congress and then was denied being a part of the delegation of Trinidad by the president of Trinidad, who, by the way, Eric Williams, had banned his own books because he considered them too radical for Trinidad. But one of the most important things at the Sixth Pan-African Congress was Skills Bank.
Mm-hmm.
The people of SNCC already had one. But what happened at Six Pack is we had, and inside of Tanzania, you had a huge number of skilled Africans working in the villages. Bob Moses was one of them, mathematician. I met him when I brought a delegation that worked in the Ujamaa villages for 3 months. I lost 15 pounds in those Ujamaa villages, sleeping on concrete floors, going third class on trains where it's nothing but piss on the floor. That's where the people were. We were with the Wananchi. And so what happened is at Six Pack, the Science and Technology Committees, a brother named Bulanlela Wabogo, who's a former RAM member, Revolutionary Action Movement, who's also a chemist, got a master's in chemistry, who also plays jazz. He's a pianist. He's also a martial artist. I hired him to teach when I was chair of Black Studies at State. He was on the Science and Technology Committee, and we had skilled Africans from all over the United States that wanted to come to help build Africa. You know what stopped that? The fact that the Sixth Pan-African Congress was in the hands of African states, and it was in the hands of the Arabs, because the Arabs got to be in on it. Algerians had just overthrown Ben Bella, and they made it clear in the very beginning of Sixth Pan-African Congress, we don't want no permanent secretariat. And so the states blocked it. They blocked it. And that was the most important thing you could give Africa, and it still is, just as you're talking now. Skills. We got the biggest skills bank of Africans on the planet. And a lot of those Africans are being thrown out of jobs by Trump, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's good that they're being thrown out of job. They can come home and build Africa. And matter of fact, we need to stop building up capitalism, stop building up the slave master's house, and let's build our own house. Our fight is for Africa, and that you can have all the skills you want, but if you don't have the consciousness to build for your own self and your own people and your own kind, we'll continue to have problems, because our people are now homeless. Our people living on the bridges. Our people living like animals in the Congo and different parts of the world, and it's getting worse by the minute. And now it's time for us to come together politically and ideologically and build a movement, an organization that we can guide and direct our people to help each other. And we gotta be like, we can't be charging people what you charge rich people and people with money to do so. We need to get together with committees of people and let's go build some houses. Just like these young people have gone to Guinea-Bissau, they ain't asking for no money. They go in there to look for sick people and make them well if they can. We need to go and begin to put our skills together and begin to get on some land and build some houses and whatever, and and repair houses or whatever we need. And these are the kind of things we need to do and begin to help our people. In Cuba, they don't have rich folk. They don't make the poor people pay for stuff what the rich folk pay for and what foreigners pay for. They got special money for them, and they can get anything the rich folk can get. Anyway, go ahead.
So this is just riding down the street, looking at different buildings. And in terms of housing, we notice a lot of housing is going up, a lot of apartments, to try to deal with homelessness. This was our first night there. This was a fabulous restaurant, a nice restaurant. If you see the food is coming out, but that's the delegation. It was 8 of us? Yeah, 8 of us, because Ajabu was not on here, but that's the 8 of us. This sister, that's the brother, the president of the Sahara Alliance. And that's the pen. If you see the pen that he gave, this is another television station. We did a lot of television.
Yeah, that's good.
All the television stations, we did a lot of that. That's the delegation, the entire delegation.
And in housing, we need to be building housing here for our people. That was one of the things we did in the San Francisco Freedom Movement as I was transitioning to Pan-African People's Organization. When you all were marching through Mississippi, I was in Washington, D.C., lobbying the Senate for low and moderate income housing. And when that march first started, I was saying, because I was staying with the core member in Washington, what are they doing? Because, the brother was marching against fear. We had already killed that. What is this about? But then when I heard Black Power, I said, uh-oh. Good. We came back. We got that low and moderate income housing legislation passed, and I built a unit called Marcus Garvey Martin Luther King Cooperatives, 220 units of low income, 1,500 square foot units for $170 a month. You hear me? Yeah. We also need to be doing that here. And there are some churches that build housing. And right now, the federal government has gone out of the low-income housing business. Why? Because housing is being built by the rich. Every city in this country is basically building condos for the rich and nothing for the poor. And so while we're building Africa, we also got to build up for people in this country. And we have to view the work we do here is also nation building, because we're a nation within a nation. Because everybody here ain't going to Africa, but those that do, they need to be rolling up their sleeves to doing something for Africa. And those who don't need to be rolling up their sleeves to support Africa while we build some Africa here. Why don't we have an Africa town?
Well, you have Africa town in Alabama. Matter of fact, in Mobile, they named a town Africa Town, USA, and this was in 1983. Wow. And also, I would like to say that capitalism got to be torn down.
Yeah, I agree.
And that we're going to have to go to battle here and look like it, absolutely we're going to have to fight. And that one time, Elijah Muhammad said that the Black people or Africans in the United States might have to die to save Africa and the rest of the people in the world, because we in the belly of the beast. And just like the people in Palestine, they have found themselves in the belly of the beast, and they've died to save the rest of the Palestinians and to save their land. And we might have to die to save Africa. And it's going to be bloodshed in Africa, and a lot of buildings and things you see standing now won't be standing that much longer. Revolution is the only way out this.
Yeah, one thing is we don't need to be doing no mass dying. And Hamas, I think, great as they were in certain ways, their strategy ain't always been that smart. And so we have to be smart enough that as we're moving for the unification and liberation of Africa on the continent and around the world, here we are the leading force when it comes to change in this country. Because our culture is the culture of resistance. And when we resist, everyone else goes into motion. It's interesting that when the Black Panther Party went into resistance, the Native Americans who had already been fighting for centuries against these white people, they formed the American Indian Movement, AIM. They said they were inspired by the Black Panther Party. You know, the Brown Berets were inspired by our movement here. And we know that in India, you had a Dalit Panther Party, a Black Panther Party in India. When we moved in the San Francisco Freedom Movement, we inspired the free speech movement. That free speech movement spread around the United States and went to France and nearly overthrew the French government. We have the power in this country to create chain reactions. And when we move the forces in this country and around the world. When Africa moves, they do the same thing. And the other group that makes that happen is Jamaica. When the Jamaicans move, the world moves. And
also, Fidel Castro in Cuba and the Cuban Revolution is inspiring people around the world, and that all the freedom fighters that exist in the world today pattern themselves after Che and Fidel Castro and the Cuban Revolution and the Socialist Revolution. And so Cuba is the most inspiring, and Castro is the most inspiring, greatest leader that exists in the world today. And the Cuban Revolution is influencing people as we go and as we sit here.
Yeah, and the Cubans need to be free to this embargo and all of this pressure that's been put on them. And you have to give the Cubans credit for being one of the nations in the world, few in the world, that actually put their people's lives on the line for another nation. When they went into Angola and stopped those racist South Africans dead in their tracks. And a lot of Africans were doing the fighting coming from Cuba, because Cuba is 60 or more % African. Very few African nations would stick their necks out for another nation on principles. Nations usually operate on money. They operate on national interests. So yeah, I have the highest respect for the Cubans. I was in Cuba, a part of the National Black United Front that I'm a co-founder of, with Reverend Herbert Dowtry, who was chair, I was vice chair, and we negotiated agreements with the Cuban government. And one of those was what your son has for free medical training and a bunch of other things. So yeah, Cuba is very important. But
it's showing people revolution. And that's what Cuba's doing, showing people revolution, showing them what they must do to get liberated and free. And also, we have to thank Russia for the role it has played throughout the world. And Putin stayed in Africa over 12 years, training African soldiers to fight against the apartheid and the colonial system in Africa, and training soldiers. That's why no African government will speak out against Putin or speak out against Russia, because they are playing a great revolutionary role in the world struggle for liberation. Not only in Venezuela, Nicaragua, and through other places in the world, but Russia is definitely a great inspiration, and we definitely have to endorse socialism for our revolution. And Thomas Sankara was influenced by Cuba, by Fidel Castro, and today they get support from Russia. Russia sent 100,000 troops to this country and to protect the president and to advance the revolution in, how you say?
Burkina Faso.
In Burkina Faso. And so Russia, China, and even North Korea, Nicaragua, Venezuela, these socialist countries are playing a major role in this country, in Burkina Faso. And we thank all the socialist nations, and we thank Russia and China and the countries that's playing these roles. And that this place here, what do you say?
This picture here is a monument that was built. You see the Black Power fist, and it was built. It's called the Freedom Monument, to show that the flame doesn't go out. You know, and we took a lot of pictures around that. A lot of people come to that monument. It was built a few years ago.
This is Ethiopia.
Yeah.
That's the plane you came in on.
Yeah.
Go to the next one.
A long flight. Same thing. Yeah.
Airport, Ethiopia.
See, you love Africa enough, you came in on an African airline.
Oh, yeah.
Got any more? Yeah. Oh yeah, this is the one that's on our promotional leaflet here. Yeah.
One of the things, another common theme with the ministers, they all recognize is that they say that their main enemy is going to be internal, fighting the internal enemy.
That's
now.
As a matter of fact, Fidel Castro said that after the military part of the revolution in Cuba,
The last bullet.
that's when the revolution started, because now you got to rebuild people and get them to not think about money and economic and personal gains and personal interests, but think of the interests of the people. And that's what Cuba's been doing, is fighting internally, rebuilding the people and rebuilding the revolution. We got to rebuild our people and Africanize our people and socialize our people, where they'll be socialist and get rid of the money and have everybody working to build houses in the interest of the people. And that's what the revolutionaries want to do, not go out and make money off the people, but go out and serve the people, to make, in terms of putting together institutions, put together some schools, put together some medical centers and everything we know that people need, get some, go to people's houses and help them fix their houses up, do whatever we need to do, build gardens, take and go and build as many gardens as we can in neighborhoods and all that. These are what things that revolutionaries do, and not go out and make money off the people, but go out and serve the people.
That we saw the roads. We hear a lot about them fixing the roads. The highway were in great shape, some of the best I've seen in Africa, and compared to even the West. And so those main highways were in good shape. The traffic was orderly. It was, I mean, you could definitely see progress. And on the side streets, there were a lot of side streets that they hadn't gotten to, because I think that's the next level. But you can see that already started leveling out and getting ready to do those things. Another thing that this was a great group. This was because you tell them about that.
This young lady came here and built the St. Kyrie Center, and that they had me to come speak to this group, and that she's there working on the revolution. She made it clear that she's there struggling for the liberation of Africa, not just the liberation of Burkina Faso, and that she's put together a school and an institution and in the country. And she also on her way to Niger, as we was there, to build another school and work. And she worked with the All African People's Revolutionary Party. And one of the things that we're encouraging to build schools and revolutionary institutions throughout Africa. And that's one of the things that we're doing. And they had me to come there twice to speak to the school, and we're going back to see them again. And we're giving her help to build the schools. And these are the young revolutionaries.
An awesome group of young.
Awesome group of very intellectual, knowledgeable, educated, computer. Matter of fact, we took how many computers?
7.
7 computers and presented to them in the country and whatever. But these are revolutionary. And this young lady, well, how you say her name? Anim, whatever, but she's a beautiful lady, and she's born in California. She weigh about, look like 90 pounds, but she's so big, look like she weigh about 400 pounds. She's so strong, powerful little girl, and we're very honored to be part of this group.
Now, they have a lot of respect
Thomas
for
Sankara Center. And remember, Thomas Sankara was the president of Burkina Faso, and the French had his best friend who was part of the government. The French had his best friend to go kill him, assassinate him. And he was in a meeting. They surrounded the meeting and came there with guns and just started shooting people. And he came outside and tried to slow it down, stop it. And they assassinated him and 12 other people. And we went to the Thomas Sankara Memorial, and we got there and saw the spot in the office he was in, and I stood in the spot where they killed him and made a little speech out there at the spot and moved around the center and whatever. But Thomas Sankara, and they put this neo-colonial in power. He stayed 25 years, bagged by the French and United States, closed down all the schools that the children were going to, and just lived a luxury life for itself. But at some point, the conscience rose in Burkina Faso. They rose up, and when they went to get him and run him away, The French brought in the army, brought in helicopters and took him out and saved him. But he was an agent of imperialism that killed the president of Burkina Faso, just like they killed Lumumba and what have you.
I think he's in Sierra Leone now.
He's somewhere in Sierra Leone, and Sierra Leone.
Plotting.
And Sierra Leone is getting money from the United States, French, and the white governments and the big companies to help overthrow Burkina Faso and to stop the progress of Africa becoming independence.
This picture here this is the entire delegation. It's a delegation of Pan-Africanists, and Oli represented a Black Power youth group. Then you had the Queen and the Sister Taida. They were part of the Afro-descendant nation. And then you had the brother in the back, Sipiwe, he lives in Guinea-Bissau right now. And then you had also the brother in the back, Brother Sean, who was her guard. And then you had brother, our fearless leader here, Brother Jabu from the New Black Panthers.
Right on. You were making a comment earlier about the highways and stuff. Their highways are being better built than they are here. But one of the reasons why you have potholes and everything else, and you have rundown schools and rundown infrastructure, is all the money in this country goes to the military industrial complex,
right?
Starting with Truman. And so now more than $1 trillion goes to that. Technically, 858 billion. But when you take all the hidden appropriations, it's over $1 trillion. So that means the country becomes poorer and more underdeveloped.
That's what they're doing to the world. They got the world becoming poor and underdeveloped. And even though Burkina Faso got some good roads, they got some bad roads too.
Right.
Made of dirt and dirt and dirt and dirt. And many of the Black communities and the African communities live on dirt roads and whatever, but they building them up. They had to come from zero up to where they're trying to get. And they're just developing. Burkina Faso is just developing. Remember, 80% of the people, they were not allowed to learn to read and write. And that you still got food, scarce food, and not eating a whole lot of different kinds of food. We ate fish and fruit every day and whatever. But they don't have it, and they have blocked them. And now they're coming to grow their food and to build their country. And this is what we got to do, is build the country. And hopefully we can start trading within Africa and building our stuff and stop depending on the West for everything. They want you to depend on them for everything. They don't want you to grow your rice. Everything you do, you got to buy from a company from the West. And we're trying to cut that off and build for Africa. And this is what we're talking about. We're talking about building a socialist nation where we will farm for ourselves. If we got gold, we will build the gold factories in Africa, the diamond factories in Africa, and bring the engineers there to train and do it and whatever. Africa got to do for itself.
The three main areas that they were looking at as the primary is education, health, and food sovereignty. So they're addressing those things as priorities.
But the primary is the political.
And security, security.
Political and security is part of the political. It's time for us to talk about Africa, one unified Africa, talk about socialism, and all our organizations got to give support to that. And we got to bring unity among our organizations around the world. And we began to work together and move together, because as long as you broke up in a bunch of little bitty pieces, you can do nothing. As long as Africa is broke up into 50 different countries, they can beat it up one by one area by area. But if Africa unite, nobody would dare to touch us. And we unite with our brothers in the Caribbean, in Africa, in the United States, and other parts, we could be a powerful force. But no individual group can do nothing. United people in the United States are weak. They're weak. They can't even get one person out there from under the bridge. in San Francisco, in Atlanta, and wherever. And that's why we need land. And our land is Africa. Those are our diamonds and gold and oil and silver and copper and pearl. And the little brother in Burkina Faso, they got the right idea. And one of the things Thomas Sankara said, we need a party. We need a party. And he was building a party before they killed him. And now I know one worldwide party and trying to be a worldwide party is the All African People's Revolutionary Party. And if there are any other parties, let's come together and put our ideals together, put our children together, build little schools and institutions, and become one, because divided we're weak.
They all talked about the United States of Africa.
United States of Africa. One unified socialist Africa. We must destroy capitalism and imperialism and Zionism.
Right. Burkina Faso is initiating over 23 programs of nation building, from water to seeing that they control their banks, to right now guaranteeing that every child through university gets a free education and a stipend of $150 a month, building housing for the poor, a whole host of things. As you pointed out, road building all over the country. And what's impressive is the amount of volunteer participation coming from the people.
So the people love it.
Like right now, the kids on their breaks, they refuse to take a break. They want to use their break to build the country. So they have all these projects that the kids are doing on their supposed to be their breaks.
Mm-hmm.
And they're influenced by Fidel Castro. Like, he closed the schools down, sent everybody to the country to do farming and work for the poorest of the people. And this is what they're getting the children to do, to be gardens in their schools and to grow food and to do different things that will help the people. And we need socialist programs that we will help our people and not run around talking about money. We don't need no money. We need political education, political organization. We need revolution.
The other thing in terms of medicine, real quick, right now they're working on, they don't have total free medicine, but what he has done is cut all fees in half, except for the babies. Delivering children, childbirth is free. There's no fees with those things that associate with delivery and children. But other medical fees he has cut in half at this point, with the objective that it's free later.
Yeah.
And also, we have talked to the doctors that Cuban doctors that's in Guinea-Bissau. We've talked to them about the need that they expressed to us, that they were concerned about the disease that the mosquito gave. What do you call it?
Right. One of the things they said that they needed was a team to come in and research dengue, which is a disease that Cuba has done a lot of work on and almost, eradicated it from a lot of the neighborhoods there. But so they would like a team to come in and research the dengue problem that they have with the mosquito.
So we did have a discussion with the medical team that's in Guinea-Bissau about
sending a brigade
to
Burkina
Faso. And also we should know that the mosquito have a disease that the mosquito give you kill more people in the whole of Africa than any other disease. And we have a program where we can send anybody that can hear us. If you want your child to go to medical school directly from high school, we now can you can now go to Cuba and go to medical school directly out of high school, and we're recruiting for it. And if you want to know about the medical program, you could Google IFCO News, NEWS.org. IFCO, IFCO News.org. And if you got a child in college, want to go to medical school, you don't have to take the MCAT and go through a bunch of tests. You can study in Cuba and become a doctor, and you can go from college, or now they're around the world. They've been accepting people from high school, and now you can go from here and go directly to medical school from high school. So call IFCO, and all the information's on that website, and hopefully
it's a great program because it's complete. It's a free, 100% free scholarship. You pay nothing. As a matter of fact, Cuba even give the students pesos every month to buy their little toiletries and necessities. So they actually pay the students, you know, to come to that program.
And you live in dormitory and whatever, and you live
They
good.
give you food, everything that you need. There's no such thing as testing fees and uniform fees. Everything you need to be a successful doctor, Cuba provided under that program.
And they don't want to flunk nobody because they don't benefit from flunking you and you taking the stuff over. And so if you flunk a test, the part that you didn't pass, they go back over with you 2 or 3 times and see if you can keep going. So Cuba is very good. And so if we hopefully 100 people will hear us today and say, and call that number, look at their website and say, I'm sending our children to medical school.
Yes, very, very important. Cuba sends their doctors all over the world.
Yes.
Helps elevate countries. Barbados, which my wife is from. Huge number of Cuban doctors and doctors from other parts of Africa, nurses and stuff like that. So that's
set up medical centers throughout North, South America. Cuba's everywhere. And also this picture right here is me standing next to a young brother with an AK-47. And I just wanted to stand there and let him know that I was a military soldier too. I'd help burn down a couple of cities here and there. And I've just identified with the young soldiers, but young men got armies and securities all over Burkina Faso. And this is just one of the young military men.
Whenever you go into a building, that's you see they're very keen on security there.
All around.
You're not getting in no government building without leaving everything at the door.
And you're not getting in the yard without going by machine gun. And this coming out of one of the minister's office. I was saying that with some of the representatives of the government of Burkina Faso.
Yeah, communicate media. The brother on the outside is for media. Most of those are for media. That like we couldn't take a lot of these pictures. We couldn't take. They would have media will come in because we had to leave our cameras and phones and everything at the door. So they came in and they took pictures, and then by that evening they would send the pictures to us. So most of these pictures all these pictures with the ministers were taken by their media person.
But we could take pictures on the street all we want.
Huh.
And this picture somewhere.
This is at the radio station RTV.
Yeah, radio station.
I mean television.
Television station.
RTV.
Yeah. I'm at home, free at last, thank God Almighty, come home. I've been to the mountaintop and I've seen the promised land. I may not have got there with you, but we are the people who got to Africa. We are the people who got to Burkina Faso. Africa must unite.
right on. I know Kwame Ture is up there laughing right now.
Oh yeah.
They're laughing and agreeing. Right on.
And we're about to lose my wife.
Okay. Anything else you want to say before you go?
No. I think I've kind of said everything.
You sure?
But thank you for having me on.
You don't want to tell them how much you love me?
Yes, I love you.
Listen, if you're putting up with a revolutionary big mouth like this, you really love him. You know what I mean? And when you got a real man, and a real man has got them a real African woman, hey, you got the most precious thing in life. By the way, I want to acknowledge that my wife's birthday, Pamela Hurley Tashaka, will be next Wednesday. And she was born August the 27th, 1955. When the things kicked off.
She was born.
Oh, okay. Okay. She's 16 years younger than me. She's had a recent accident, broken arm, and so she's
Oh, wow.
recovering. And so I want to say, happy birthday to you.
Yeah.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. And happy birthday. This is a woman that loves Africa. When her baby was just a few months old, she took him to Senegal. You understand? Huh?
Yeah.
She wanted him surrounded by Africa. You understand? The other thing I want to note that we had the passing of a great man, Imhotep Akabulan. He's a former student of mine. He ran Wose Community Church in Sacramento. He's one of those students because when I went up to teach at San Francisco State, the FBI ran a COINTELPRO on me. They tried to kill me 3 times. They took a job, but I let them take it. The Spirit told me not to fight that one because I always fight, and I've never lost a battle, by the way. I have three W's: win, win, and win. You don't let them ever put their foot up your butt. Put them up their butt. You understand?
We keep fighting.
Yeah, but win. And so when I was out at state, I went up for tenure. Tenure is where you get to be permanent. Unless you kill somebody, you get that job. And that meant 4 months of being paid, doing nothing. That's off. And then the rest of them teaching. And so they tried to knock me off of tenure, and we were able to beat them. But the pleasure was, because I taught 16,000 students, was to blackenize students. And when I went into class, I told them this. This wasn't altogether true. The system was dumb enough to hire me. They weren't. I just beat them. With the help of a great man named Asa Hilliard. Asa Hilliard has passed on to the other side. He was in charge of my committee for hiring. He was the only Black dean at San Francisco State. And he finally brought me into his office one day and said, Shaka, what? He said, you won. Because sometimes you can overfight. You know what I mean? It was heavily due to him and other community support. And so one of my prize students, because I thought I was going to revolutionize every student, because my habit for 40 years was I taught, I went in the community and organized. And that's 40 years. And so, unfortunately, all my students weren't radicalized, but he's one of them. But he's a spiritual person. So Imhotep Akabulan took his stuff because he took a course that I taught where Diop, Sheikh Anta Diop, was the center of my teaching in 1973. I started in 72. And so he started on that and then spent his life dedicating himself to uplifting the consciousness, the spirituality, the politics of African people. And he just passed over yesterday. Cancer hit him for a second time and took him out. And we're so sorry. That's a brother that I love deeply. We had him on the show. Actually, he had me on his show, and we would rebroadcast it. And so we've had a couple of rebroadcasts of Imhotep Akabulan, one of which was done at Wose Community Church in Oakland about 4 months ago. And so his passing is a great loss, but it's a gift to the spirits in heaven. And you can be sure that in heaven, they are plotting to support us in our struggle down here on earth. There's a great brain thrust up in heaven looking out for us.
And also, I would like to say that my wife and my family, we've been summoned back to Burkina Faso, and we'll be leaving in
the end of October.
We'll be leaving in the end of October, and we will definitely go and see the president at this time.
Right on.
Well, we hope it.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, well, you all are doing great work. This report has been outstanding. If you have any more pictures, put them up there. Okay, what's this?
This is the tailor shop where they're doing some sewing for me.
Okay. One of the policies of the government of Burkina Faso is to make all of their clothes and everything in Burkina Faso, and the president has outlawed sending any used clothes to Burkina Faso, and that includes their uniforms, including taking these judges and lawyers out of these clown suits where they got these white wigs on that indicate that their brains are wigged out, and they've come in with African clothing designed according to African culture. So there's a whole lot of stuff going on there,
and using their own cloth
and they wear their own beautiful clothes. This man right here on the end, that's the Burkina Faso.
And so is this brother.
Yeah, both of them got the stripes on, whatever.
Yeah.
And they wearing their own African clothes, and it's look very beautiful.
Got any more?
And these are brothers on a bicycle in the neighborhood.
We did that one.
That's a picture from the school looking out on the community.
Yeah, right on.
And that's the end.
Yeah.
And Africa must unite, Africa must be free, and that we have been
unified Africa.
One unified socialist Africa. Socialism, all pan-Africanism, all pan-Africanists must endorse socialism. And the young people are taking over. This is sincere. Hello.
By the way, for some of our viewers who don't understand that, thank you, that that socialism needs to be a policy. I saw a comment up here, we can make capitalism work. Capitalism came to birth through slavery. It came to birth through your blood. When the Dutch East India Company was formed, and that company was to invest in slavery, alongside of it was a Wall Street. Wall Street and capitalism is based on African blood. So, yeah, you may be up under a capitalist system, but one of the reasons why a lot of blacks don't make progress is because it's a blood-sucking system. And so if you think you're going forward on this system, and the worst part of this system is this, private property. The idea that land, air, and water could be owned by anybody. Tell a bird that tree that they're flying to nest on belongs to somebody. They have no sense of that. No part of nature operates according to private property. You hear me? And we were private property for hundreds of years. So how are you going to run around here talking about capitalism's a great thing because they got you identifying with a Shaquille O'Neal who's a near billionaire or Oprah Winfrey? Hey, the fact is this country was founded by 1%. They controlled half the wealth, and the richest person was George Washington. Where did he get his money? Slavery, land stealing, and the extermination of Native Americans. And you're going to say that system's going to work for you. It ain't worked yet, and it ain't going to work. And so this whole idea has to change. I understand the president of this country, Burkina Faso, is saying they want to outlaw private property. Now that's real revolutionary, especially the idea that land can be individually owned. You end up with a knucklehead like Elon Musk owning more wealth than probably half the planet. And what's he doing? Going around to get more. And what did he do? He took over firing people in the federal government. And who did they fire? They fired black people that look just like you and me and other poor people. And this is a dysfunctional white boy who comes from South Africa, who told the president that doesn't know up from down that the South Africans are discriminating against the whites and throwing them off the land. They should throw them off the land. They haven't. And here he is throwing Mexicans out, 400,000 people from the Caribbean, getting ready to throw them out, but bringing in a handful of white South Africans who still control most of the land of South Africa, the Haitians. 400,000 they're getting ready to throw out of this country. So don't be running around here talking about capitalism's the greatest thing since sliced bread. You haven't got any. You understand? So this radical stuff that you hear out of my partner's mouth, I say it in a different way. I might be more radical than him, and he don't know it because I'm coming from another bag, but we both radical. And why? Because if you got dirty clothes, you got to put them in a radical cleaner, and that cleaner's got to take the dirt out.
Revolution.
And you can't do it by saying that you're going to use the same system to clean up a mess. America's a mess because capitalism is set up for the few to get more and more. You just had a dirty bill passed by Trump. He called it the Great Beautiful Bill. This Great Beautiful Bill is the greatest wealth transfer done so far in the history of this country, other than through slavery, of taking from the poor and giving it to the rich. And it's being done under the disguise of, we're going to end corruption in government, when you got one of the most corrupt presidents running the government, under conviction for over 34 felonies, avoiding it only because he's president. And because
all of them are criminals. Every president has been a criminal. Obama was a criminal.
Very true. But this one you better understand, because you're under the early stages of fascism right now. If you think this is the same as everything, yeah, it is. It's the same as 1876, when they put us back into slavery. That's what this one is. Do your homework.
Right now, we slaves, and now we got to fight our way out of it. Right. Ain't no other way. Revolution. Get organized. Get an organization. Build your army. And let's prepare to fight. Let's round up the gangs, make soldiers out of them, because we have no choice. The whole economic system fell right on our head, and now we got to figure out how we're going to feed the hungry, how we're going to give housing to our people the best we can. Our fight is for Africa. We must destroy this system, and bloodshed is the only way. I know of no other way. Nobody has ever solved this problem we got without bloodshed. And we got to prepare. And we got to start educating our own children, teaching them the way.
And right now, we got to free our own minds. I see Akinyele Umoja saying, informative program, a fellow revolutionary. Among the major African Center scholars, I'm the only one that's a revolutionary. The other one is Akinyele Umoja.
What did he say?
He said, informative program. You know what I mean? That's a fellow revolutionary. So,
belong to the Malcolm X grassroots movement, and that they got youth programs for children, and that my children went to that program, and they nursed my children through it as young children, and they grew up in Akinyele's house and whatever, and Malcolm X grassroots movement has been a great force in this area of the world. They keep Malcolm X alive and do a great thing for Malcolm X every year, and that he's a great young man in the African Studies Department, and he's just a good, and his whole little crew he worked with, the Malcolm X grassroots movement, has been a great force for the revolution. And we thank you, Brother Africa, Akinyele, and your wife, and all y'all's crew. Long live the Malcolm X grassroots movement.
Akinyele has been on the show a couple of times. He did it on his book, We'll Shoot Back. And I've known Akinyele since about 18 years old. When we were organizing the 6th Pan-African Congress, he came with his primary influence, a brother who was in the RAM, Revolutionary Action Movement, and had been a member of the Black Panther Party, a leader of Northern California. And so we've known each other since then, and exchanged on a number of occasions. What I like most about Akinyele Umoja, and I tell him personally, give people love while they're alive. He's a good person. See, Kwame Touré and I, we would have discussions because we'd have him under security. We bring him in to speak or something. And my first starting point was this: to be a good revolutionary, you got to be a good person. And if you don't have your values straight, if your word doesn't mean anything, if you don't have love for yourself and your people, you're going to be no good. I don't care how good your ideas sound. And that was the starting point of ours. And that's what I like about Akinyele and what I like about you, brother, and your wife. Proud of you, Black man, African man. You got the spirit of Africa. You ain't lost a step. In fact, the steps have got to be rougher. Those feet of yours have been upside the behinds of many places, and we're proud of you. So is anything else you want to say before we conclude this, Brother Mikasa?
Well, no, I just want to say Africa must unite, and we must come together with all our different organizations and groups and join in with revolutionary forces around the world, and that this is not an American black folk struggle, South American black folk struggle. This is a worldwide African struggle, and we have to come together, not only organization, ideologically, and other force ways that humans come together. We have to take and protect the liberated zones that exist in the world today, from Cuba to Burkina Faso, all of them that exist. The socialist nation, we must protect them, and the revolutionary, we must help them, and all the resources that we have in these institutions, you must direct them toward the revolution, and we need your help as much as we can. And we thank you, and we thank all the brothers and sisters that's coming to this consciousness, and let us help each other. Let us fight together. And like Dr. King say, we got some difficult days ahead.
Right on. Yeah, the struggle will continue. We're in a relay race. We're not in a 50-yard dash. And so we pass the baton on from generation to generation. We're in the belly of the beast that's in decline. Just as the West declined and fell after World War II, the United States is falling. They're in decline. They haven't fallen yet, but they are in decline, rapid decline.
But the liberation of Africa will bring them down. We have to liberate Africa and stop them from stealing our diamonds and gold and oil and silver and copper and pearl and cobalt and working our people for nothing around the world. You got 500 million people in the world make less than $1.90 a day, work like dogs, barely get enough to get a piece of bread and whatever. Never seen a toilet, never seen running water, never had a clean drop of water. And it's even worse living outdoors like animals and whatever, just like in San Francisco and whatever. We have to come together, and we have to have a love for our people, and we have to create some institutions and bring our children in there, not for money, but bring them in there, because when we have money, you just get the bourgeois children, but we need children that need us, and bring them in and teach them and guide them. There's a lot of children out there need us. And let us go get them and work them and organize them.
Right on.
Again, thank you very much. And thank you, Malcolm X Grassroots Movement. Thank you, AAPRP, and all the different organizations that's out there. Let us come together and sit down and have a discussion and talk about where do we go from here? How do we go to Pan-Africanism?
Including the Pan-African People's Organization that I've been a member of and chairing since 1966. I want to say next week, I'm going to be doing a presentation to Africa, just as the president of Burkina Faso did one to African Americans. I'll be doing one to Africans, not speaking for all African Americans or Africans in America. I don't claim to, neither did he. But it will be about the importance of Africa to our people. So this has been a real joy, and to have your team on board, brother.
Yes, sir. Nice. Remember, they made me and my wife, ambassadors of 3 countries, Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso, and I'm ambassador for Africa, all the people in the Caribbean, all the people in the South Pacific, all the people right here, wherever we are. I'm the ambassador, and I work for the total liberation and unification of Africa. And I certainly hope, and I'm trying to speak for all of you, let's come together.
Right on.
When we all get together. What a day this will be.
Got that right. And that process is starting. It's been going on for a long time, but it's reaching a high point. So thank you very much, you and your wife both.
Well, thank you very much, and long live the African Revolution. One unified socialist Africa. One Africa must be one nation, one president, one army. Put all our armies together, bring in all the gangs, all the little philosophers, bring us all together. Let's put our heads together and march forward.
Right on. Thank you,
Black
brother.
power.
Black power. Okay, that's it. Till next week.